You have probably seen people turning into animals before, but this is the first time I have come across a comic about an animal turning into a human. Coco was the happiest dog in the world, enjoying endless pampering from her sister Khloe every single day. But after Coco died, Khloe completely fell into darkness and became the villain everyone despised. Her fiancé callously abandoned her, and her family cut all ties. So Coco decided to reincarnate as a human, even if Khloe would not accept her back. This time, Coco vowed to rely on her own efforts to bring a genuine smile back to Khloe's face. This black dog right here is Coco, who 5 years ago was a stray wandering the streets. By chance, they met and were drawn to each other by the loneliness they sensed in one another. Despite warnings, Khloe took Coco in, and from then on, Coco was wrapped in happiness. Not only did she have full meals every day, but she was free to be mischievous and playful. The only time she got scolded was when she ate something dirty 7 times over. And so, Coco and Khloe lived together for 5 years, until Coco's lifespan came to an end. Even though Khloe could not understand her words, Coco did everything she could to show her love. Then, Coco's soul arrived on the dog planet, where other dogs happily played. But Coco just sat quietly, watching the world with a deep sadness. She often heard others speaking ill of Khloe. She watched helplessly as her sister Khloe grew lonelier and became the villain in everyone's eyes, powerless to do anything. If it had been before, Coco would have bitten those people just to make Khloe laugh again. After spending a year on the dog planet, a golden-furred dog noticed Coco's odd behavior and found it strange why she did not join the others in playing. In fact, this golden dog was the dog god, the ruler of all dogs. But rather than playing on the dog planet, Coco longed even more to be with Khloe. So Coco came up with a plan, hoping the dog god would help her reincarnate as a human. She wanted to become Khloe's daughter, but the dog god immediately refused. First, Khloe was not even pregnant, and besides, the dog god did not encourage dogs to reincarnate as humans. Because living in the human world is tough for dogs, and humans sometimes do not hesitate to do cruel and filthy things. Coco said it was okay since she was a naughty dog too often sneaking Khloe's food and tearing up tissues. The dog god sighed but agreed, as long as Coco did not reveal her true identity and promised to return to the dog planet after 5 years. Then, to protect the kind-hearted Coco from being bullied, the dog god granted her 3 powers. The first power lets her freely communicate with animals. The second lets her see the future. And the third makes her smarter whenever something involves Khloe. So Coco slid down a rainbow back to the human world, her form and soul transformed into a human shape. When she opened her eyes again, she was back at the Actos estate, where she had once lived with Khloe. Coco curiously examined her body, no tail anymore, and her hands were much more agile. Now she could run and jump incredibly fast, and as her memories flooded back, she realized this body was hers as well. Originally a country dog, now adopted by the estate, 5 years old, Coco immediately set out to find Khloe. But since she was not used to walking on 2 legs yet, she stumbled and fell, drawing the attention of a female servant. The servant told Coco she had to clear away the clutter downstairs. Thinking it was just a walk, the little girl was excited, but the servant awkwardly handed her a document giving up her custody rights. Coco had no idea what that meant. After the servant hinted at the situation, Coco realized she was about to be kicked out of the Actos estate. It turned out that not long ago, the Aduz estate received a divine decree: if they adopted a child blessed by the gods, the family would prosper. So the estate had taken in Coco, a child marked with a sacred seal. But for some unknown reason, her sacred seal suddenly disappeared a month ago. The little girl was confused, only thinking about finding Khloe. Just then, Coco activated her enhanced intelligence mode to ask the estate to re-examine her sacred seal, silently hoping that with the dog god's help, everything would turn out fine. However, the current official is away and won't return for another month, so the order to expel her has been temporarily put on hold. Given that, she decided the first thing to do was to meet Khloe. When she mentioned Khloe's name, the maid looked uneasy, because given her status, meeting a direct family member was extremely difficult, even if she had done something great. But she misunderstood great achievement as big success and rushed off alone to the royal racetrack. She and Khloe used to play ball on the grass there. Following the scent of the ball, she entered the royal stables and saw 2 adults frowning as they discussed the horse's illness. It turned out the horse named Lightning refused to eat for some unknown reason. The person with blue hair was a veterinarian named Pachika, whom she had met before her master died. Seeing the slim hope, she decided to report the situation to Ruth. Ruth is Khloe's older brother, and his affection for Lightning was as strong as Khloe's was for her. Just then, she spotted the ball hidden in a corner and, thinking she had done something great, happily jumped up next to Lightning. Lightning immediately told her that her idea of doing something great was not quite right. Curious, she asked what it really meant to do something great. Hearing a human speak to him, Lightning opened his eyes wide in surprise, then immediately shed tears as he poured out his troubles to her. He said he was not sick, just that a thorn stuck in his tongue was causing too much pain to eat. After she pulled out the thorn, Lightning started cursing Pachika as a quack. While comforting Lightning, she asked again what counts as doing something great. Lightning shook his mane and said that for a famous horse like him, getting fully healed is a huge achievement. Just as she happily thought she might finally see Khloe again, Pachika heard a noise from the stable and came back. When he saw a little girl running toward Lightning's mane, he froze in shock and quickly asked who she was and how she managed to do that. She gave her name and firmly claimed that she was the one who healed Lightning. After examining him, Pachika found that Lightning had truly made a great recovery. Thinking that she was just a commoner about to be kicked out, Pachika began scheming to take credit for this. Then he smiled and told her that he was the one who healed Lightning, before trying to chase her out, already looking forward to the reward Ruth would give him. Some time later, Ruth heard that Lightning had recovered and rushed over, abandoning his training. He asked what illness Lightning had been suffering from. Pachika replied it was just indigestion, and that throwing up the food made him feel much better. Ruth was a bit suspicious, and Lightning beside him lost his patience and suddenly flew into a rage. Seeing Lightning head toward him, Ruth happily opened his arms wide, but unexpectedly, Lightning brushed past him and went straight out the door. The three of them peeked curiously and witnessed a shocking scene. The once fierce horse was now actively friendly with the little girl. Pachika, terrified, tried to send someone to drag her out, but she stepped forward and introduced herself to Ruth, insisting she was the one who healed Lightning. She even showed the small thorn as proof, which made Ruth's eyes widen in surprise. Lightning had grazed in a meadow where a flower with tiny thorns grew, something ordinary people would not recognize. Moreover, Lightning's illness started exactly when Ruth had returned home. After checking Lightning's tongue, they found a small wound, and combined with the trust between Lightning and the girl, Ruth fully believed her story. Facing Ruth's questioning, Pachika quickly knelt down, begging for forgiveness. He even vowed that all he wanted was Ruth's recognition. The girl watched Pachika being scolded and felt a little sorry for him. But to be able to meet Khloe, she was determined to keep a low profile. Only then did Ruth remember the girl and ask the stable master who she was. The stable master explained she was the youngest daughter in the family, which made Ruth blush with embarrassment. He thought his old man was old enough not to have any more children. After being reminded by the stable master, he remembered she was the child they had recently adopted. She shook her head denying it, saying she was not their child and, without the sacred mark, she was about to be expelled. Then the little girl asked if she had done something truly great, but thought she wanted to stay longer at the Duke's mansion, so he regretfully apologized that he did not have that kind of authority. Unexpectedly, she said she only wanted to meet Khloe. Rut thought he must have misheard. He could not believe a child would want to meet such a dangerous woman. Khloe was his sister, but also the infamous evil witch in the eyes of the world. Because she dealt with dirty matters, she was despised by everyone. Due to her frequent use of dark magic, her magical core was almost collapsing. As her brother, Vut had once advised her to stop in time, but all he got back were threats to kill him. So Rut suggested she make a different wish. Yet, she was incredibly determined. On the way back, Vut kept complaining about this strange child, but deep down he hoped she could open Khloe's heart. After all, the way they both looked at animals was exactly the same. Later, she successfully got a pass to visit the Sea Kingdom's mansion, returning once again to where she had lived with Khloe. She was extremely excited. On the way, the little girl saw a large grave not far away on a hillside. The maid explained it was Khloe's grave for the dog she loved, even hiring someone to guard it day and night. Knowing Khloe never forgot it made her heart swell with joy. But the maid looked puzzled, saying the dog had died at 15 years old. Clearly an old dog. She felt wrong to be called an old dog when she was clearly a child. When she arrived at the mansion, the maid explained she could only bring the young lady this far, because Khloe's mansion was closed off, and only a select few were allowed inside. After saying goodbye to the maid, she eagerly entered, but was stopped by another maid who questioned her identity and background. She obediently showed her pass, and after examining it, the maid said that Miss Khloe was currently entertaining important guests. She did not mind at all. No matter how long it took, she was willing to wait, because every time she would gone out before, she would sit by the door waiting, and when her sister returned, she would hold her tight with warmth. Holding on to that thought, she patiently waited in the sitting room. But Khloe never appeared, and finally, she could not sit still any longer. She decided to take the initiative to approach Khloe. At that same time, upstairs in the sitting room on the second floor, Khloe was meeting with her sister Teresa. Teresa smiled with a saintly grace that made the maids around unable to stop staring. Clearly, they were serving Khloe, yet they still casually made snide remarks about her. This world was divided into two kinds of people, those with powers and ordinary folks. Those blessed by the gods were called the gifted. In the empire, they were less than 1%, making gifted individuals extremely precious in every country. Teresa was even rarer, because she possessed the power of light. Though her power was limited to purification, far less than healing. But since no one in this generation had healing abilities, Teresa was still revered and became a candidate for the Holy Maiden. Yet Khloe knew Teresa's true face very well. Outside, she spread all sorts of rumors about Khloe. Inside the house, she pretended to be solemn, offering purification to Khloe, all just to gain their father's approval. Khloe sneered disdainfully and bluntly said if she wanted to fight for the inheritance, instead of flattering their father here, she should do something more worthwhile. Caught red-handed, Teresa blushed with embarrassment and anger. She was the daughter Lucia Isaiah brought in after marrying their father. Her bloodline was Teresa's only weakness. Thinking of the maid still standing by, Teresa reminded herself to stay calm, then openly showed her true face, saying even if that were true, so what? I am not like you. I would not be foolish enough to lose the inheritance over a dog in just 1 year. Hearing Teresa insult the little girl, Khloe could not hold back anymore. In her palm, a huge destructive power began to gather. Ashplam. Teresa was shocked and terrified, unable to believe Khloe would dare use her power inside the house. But Khloe just gave a cold, empty smile. Even if I lose control, is not there still someone who can save me, or maybe no one ever could? Worried that Khloe's inability to save herself might be exposed, Teresa backed down cautiously. After she left, Khloe was so exhausted she collapsed to the floor, even coughing as she loosened her clothes. She had not realized her body was in such a fragile state. Before, Khloe had always yearned to be the Arders family heir, recognized by her father as her greatest honor. But on the day her father humiliated her and had her dog's remains exhumed, Khloe rebelled against him for the first time. He told her that being emotionally attached to a dog was foolish, but to Khloe, her dog was so much more than that. She was a companion who opened Khloe's eyes, and more than that, the first family member to love her unconditionally. Sometimes Khloe felt like she was losing her mind because even now, she still glimpsed the faint shadow of her dog. Every time she returned to her room, she instinctively searched for any trace left behind, but it was always in vain. Just then, she caught a familiar scent, a single purple flower. Her dog used to love bringing this flower back to her room. Khloe could not believe it and hurriedly picked up the flower, suspecting it was some cruel prank by Teresa trying to torment her. Meanwhile, her dog had no idea and was happily thinking that this would surely catch Khloe's attention. Sure enough, not long after, a maid rushed in to ask Khloe if the flower in her room had been placed there by her dog. Her dog beamed and proudly admitted she was the one who put it there. The maid went pale with fear because everyone knew that provoking Khloe could result in a magical punishment. But her dog did not understand what the maid was talking about. Clearly, Khloe loved purple flowers, and every time her dog brought some back, she was rewarded with sweet potatoes. The maid had no choice but to bring the offender to Khloe for judgment. Yet, upon hearing this, her dog was overjoyed at finally getting to see Khloe again, leaving the maid utterly puzzled. When they entered Khloe's room, her dog immediately took a deep breath. The room was covered in curtains, dark and gloomy, but her dog clearly remembered that Khloe never liked darkness. When Khloe returned to the room after eating, the flood of light made it hard for her to open her eyes. In truth, Khloe loved the light, but the maids, thinking magic feared light, had covered the room without permission. On the table lay a silver sweet potato flower and a letter, which read that the sweet potato flower would bring good luck. Suddenly, Khloe heard a familiar voice. She turned in surprise, and the figure in her memory perfectly matched the little girl before her. She realized she had been overthinking. Khloe approached and gently woke her dog, even the sleepy expression was identical. The moment their eyes met, Khloe's heart involuntarily skipped a beat. Finally, I get to see you, her dog said, beaming with joy. Khloe was confused, wondering why a child she had never met looked at her with such happiness. She quickly asked the child's name, and her dog introduced herself. Hearing this, Khloe immediately steadied herself. It turned out to be the adopted child. You are the one who placed the flower outside the door, right? Don't you know it is rude to enter someone else's room without permission? Hearing this, her dog grew sad. Obviously, Khloe had not recognized her, but the little girl quickly regained her composure, saying she only did it to get closer to Khloe, and also wanted to see Khloe's magic firsthand. Word was that she was a powerful magic user. That is what her dog had wanted to say since her past life. Because of Khloe's magic, she had endured endless criticism, her fiancé's coldness, and servants whispering that her magic was what caused her mother's death. Over time, Khloe began to doubt herself. At that time, her dog could not say anything except bark helplessly. So in this life, no matter the cost, her dog was determined to make Khloe understand the true power of her magic. A star's light is not dazzling on its own. It only shines because of the surrounding darkness. Without darkness, there is no light. That is why her dog believed Khloe's magic was even more important than light magic. Hearing those words, Khloe gathered her magic into her palm, ready to see if her dog was truly telling the truth. Strangely, the little girl walked right up and even complimented that the magic singing sounded as beautiful as the night sky. In that moment, the image of the girl before her eyes was like actual stars sprinkled across the dull night in Khloe's heart, making it impossible for her to look away. Then the girl began to praise her endlessly and begged Khloe if she could come visit often in the future. Khloe did not refuse outright but set 2 conditions. First, do not call her sister anymore, because even if officially adopted into the clan, the only family she recognized was just one person. Second, even if coming to the mansion, do not bother her. Feeling dejected, the girl returned to her room, clearly used to sleeping on the cold hard floor as a stray dog, yet that night she felt a chill deep in her heart. It was so hard to finally see the sister she longed for, only to be met with coldness and distance. But she did not give up and decided to dress up beautifully to restart her plan to win over the villainess's favor. Unexpectedly, at that moment, a swarm of rats suddenly appeared, led by one wearing a crown, arrogantly declaring himself the Rat King. They had lived together in the mansion before, but this time they were sent by the deity. It turned out they came to teach the girl how to predict the future. Upon hearing this, she was overjoyed, thinking maybe she could find a way to avoid being kicked out and even improve her relationship with Khloe. But the Rat King warned her that this glimpse of the future would only show events related to Khloe and only once she had to be extremely careful. The girl quickly assured him that she would never forget anything concerning Khloe. Then, following the Rat King's instructions, she closed her eyes. But what she saw was a near hopeless future for Khloe, who would not only suffer under the cruelty of her stepmother Lucia, Igia, and Teresa, she would also be accused by the king of plotting to assassinate the Grand Duke Labura, who had come to the Duke's residence to recover, yet Khloe would have no chance to defend herself. Despite the girl desperately trying to protect Khloe, it was all in vain. Khloe would still be expelled from the clan and even die tragically because of it. The tragic future made the girl weep uncontrollably, but she quickly regained her composure because while seeing the future, she also heard cheers from her dog friends. At the same time, she believed she could change Khloe's fate. The Rat King also realized they should act quickly since the mansion's owner was rumored to seal off the place for a while. Meanwhile, the maids were conspiring to isolate Khloe and shamelessly seize her belongings. Hearing this, the girl was furious. No wonder Khloe had been wearing nothing but old, dirty clothes lately. For now, the girl could not confront the Grand Duchess or Teresa, so she decided to deal with the arrogant maids first. Whenever it involved Khloe, her eyes would light up fiercely. The girl eagerly discussed an action plan with the Rat King. In the future she saw, the maids had hidden an embezzlement accounting book. If they could find it, they could kick the maids out of the mansion. Then she took out 2 pieces of cheese as payment to gain the Rat King's support. Thus, the collaboration between the girl and the Rat King officially began. Meanwhile, Khloe was eating a meal, or rather, eating spoiled and expired food. To Khloe, it did not matter, because the uncontrollable magic sickness had dulled her sense of taste. With the day of the girl's arrival approaching, Khloe suddenly felt life was truly dull. Unexpectedly, at that moment, the girl barged in, ignoring the maid's warnings, and handed Khloe a toy. Khloe was startled when she saw it was the toy the girl had loved to play with when alive but had never found. Then the girl said there was another toy shaped like a mist, but it had been taken away by the Rat King. She begged Khloe to let her stay one night because she was very good at catching rats and might be able to retrieve it. Khloe felt a headache but was also curious. After all, it was a toy the girl loved when alive. Maybe she could find some clues she had not discovered before. Finally, Khloe reluctantly agreed to let the girl stay for one night. Immediately, she saw the girl acting as if she were at home, rummaging everywhere, sometimes hiding pieces of rotten steak on the table, sometimes pulling open the curtains without permission. The girl's actions took Khloe by surprise for a moment. Night fell, and the maids secretly followed the Rat King's instructions to the underground tunnels. There, the maids were brazenly flaunting the wealth they had siphoned off from the food budget without a trace. The maid clenched her teeth in anger, but for Khloe's sake, she forced herself to hold back for the time being. Finally, she carefully found the storage room the Rat King had mentioned and indeed discovered the embezzlement ledger hidden there. She carefully hid it inside her clothes, but just then, several maids walked in unexpectedly. Hearing the footsteps getting closer, she tensed and squeezed her eyes shut, but was ultimately caught by one of the maids. The maid roughly grabbed her and threw her to the ground, coldly demanding to know what she was doing there. She even threatened that if she did not confess, she would report her to the lady of the manor to have her kicked out. Suppressing her fear, the maid looked the other woman straight in the eye, pulled out the bone-shaped toy she would prepared, and said she was just helping Miss Khloe find something. The maids thought she was lying and about to rough her up when suddenly Khloe appeared, holding a lamp, demanding to know why they were gathering there. Seeing Khloe gave the maid a surge of courage. Before taking action, the girl had spoken privately with Khloe, who had granted her free access to the estate at night. Khloe had also promised that whenever the maid called out the bone-shaped toy's name, she would appear no matter where she was. Immediately after, the maid respectfully presented the toy. The moment she touched it, Khloe suddenly felt a mysterious surge of power. Then the maid pulled out the embezzlement ledger and said she had found this financial record a solid piece of evidence to expel the wicked maids from the estate. As the maid left, Khloe's voice grew cold and sharp, like she was pronouncing a death sentence for those maids. In truth, Khloe had long known about their nightly conspiracies in the tunnels. She just had not cared to interfere until now. One bold maid asked why, if she had known all along, she was only punishing them now. Thinking of the wounds the maid had just suffered, Khloe's killing intent surged. These actions had crossed a line. Even with clear evidence, the maids remained arrogant, boasting that they were under the lady of the manor's protection, which was why they dared to act so insolently. Shortly after, one maid bowed her head, admitting guilt and promising to return to serve the lady properly, while warning Khloe that punishing servants was the mistress's prerogative. Khloe could not help but let out a cold, bitter laugh. As a direct blood relative, no matter how many servants she disciplined, the lady had no real power over her. Even before a word was spoken, dark magical energy began to gather in Khloe's palm. In an instant, all the maid's strength was drained, plunging them into darkness. Watching them desperately collapse, wailing in agony while their bodies twisted under hallucinations, Khloe felt no mercy at all. She calmly declared that this was the punishment for those who dared to disrespect her. If they could be tamed by dawn, she might consider sparing one life. Stepping out of the room, Khloe briefly felt a flicker of warmth. As she pondered whether to hire some new maids, she was suddenly hit by a wave of dizziness and blurred vision. It was a side effect from overusing dark magic haunting hallucinations. Each time this happened, she unconsciously saw visions of happiness, which made her reluctant to slip back into the darkness. But at the same time, the backlash caused excruciating pain throughout her body. Yet this time, after a moment, the pain strangely vanished. Khloe was amazed, not understanding why the side effects had stopped so quickly. Meanwhile, the maid waited for Khloe's return. A steward of the manor advised the girl to go to bed early, then handed her a small bottle of essence, explaining it was a reward from Miss Khloe. Soon after, the maid's wounds rapidly healed. Overjoyed, she felt that even if Khloe did not recognize her, it was okay, she was still the same, never allowing anyone to get hurt, a beacon of light. She also believed that one day, Khloe would openly admit that she was the sister she loved most in the world. The next day, hearing the maid had stayed at the estate all night without returning, Khloe's heart filled with worry, fearing she might do something cruel to her. He hurried to the manor, unexpectedly finding Coco asleep right in front of the main gate. Worried that Khloe might bully Coco, he had come to the manor early that morning to look for her. To his surprise, he found Coco sleeping right outside the big gate. Thinking of how much his beloved horse Tyr would adore Coco, and that this child had once helped him, he planned just to greet his little sister briefly before taking Coco back to his estate. But when he pushed open the door and stepped inside, he realized that all the maids seemed completely changed, no longer lazy as before, and the house was much brighter. He placed Coco on the sofa, and while bringing Khloe over, he could not help but admire Coco's peacefully sleeping face, so adorable it made him want to tease her. Just then, Coco suddenly woke up, her violet eyes scanning around, not seeing Khloe anywhere, and asked if he had brought her inside. He thought to himself, maybe she was just being stubborn, like she did not want to leave even if someone had kicked her out. Then he took Coco to the vet to check on Tyr and promised to prepare plenty of food and toys for her. At that moment, Khloe finally appeared, warning him not to lie to children, since she herself had never kicked Coco out. Hearing that Coco had slept outside the door, Khloe was completely unaware, having actually prepared a room ready for her. Coco then sheepishly admitted that she saw the bright sunlight streaming through the glass and could not resist going outside to look, but because the sun was so warm, she accidentally fell asleep. Hearing this, Khloe's lips curved into a tender smile, and Vut, wide-eyed with delight, realized it was not just the manor that was bathed in beautiful sunlight, but that Coco had been glowing under it too. She had naturally returned to her cheerful self, before losing control earlier, so it really was the right choice to send her to Khloe. Seeing Khloe order him to send guests away, Vut suddenly remembered the real reason he came and reminded Khloe to be extremely careful lately. Not long ago, the beast soldier tiger that the great Duke Libra brought had escaped from prison. When Coco asked what a beast soldier was, Vut immediately put on a serious face and explained that beast soldiers are powerful creatures blessed by the gods, possessing special abilities and able to form binding contracts with humans. The animals like Tyr that Coco knew were just ordinary animals. There are even rarer beings called beast spirits, but they only appear in imperial legends. Although capturing that tiger would earn a generous reward, no one has dared to attempt it so far. Before Vut finished speaking, Khloe coldly added that when their father returns, Coco's status as an adopted child would surely be revoked. Those harsh words upset Vut, and he immediately argued with his sister. Hearing Khloe's cold remarks, Coco could not help but feel hurt. Now even the fragile thread of family ties felt forced. If that status was taken away, she feared there would be no way to stay near her sister anymore. This was something Coco absolutely could not let happen. Then she suddenly thought of a clever idea. What if she caught the beast soldier tiger herself? Vut burst out laughing, doubting a 5-year-old could ever do that. But given that their father worshipped strength, maybe this could actually prevent her from being cast aside. Just as Coco got excited, Khloe's cold voice abruptly cut her off, telling her to stop dreaming. The kid is so weak and small, how could she catch it? Did she want to get hurt? Coco understood Khloe's words were out of concern, but she was determined to prove she was a strong little dog. So she went to Tia Set and King Mouse to hold a battle plan meeting. But when she said she wanted to catch a tiger, both Tia Set and King Mouse panicked and protested. King Mouse immediately gave up. No matter what Coco said, because it was a primal fear. Even though King Mouse was mighty, he was no match for a tiger. Tia Set also admitted he was powerless and refused outright. With all her animal friends unable to help, Coco felt downcast and unsure what to do next. Suddenly, an idea sparked in her mind. She asked King Mouse to tell her where his instincts warned him not to go, thinking maybe the tiger was hiding there. So Coco dragged King Mouse along as her scout. Wherever King Mouse felt safe and comfortable, she absolutely would not go, only heading toward the places that frightened him the most. Very quickly, Coco crept closer to the warehouse area. In her hand, the Spring Rat King gently reminded Coco not to get too close. Suddenly, a tiger's roar echoed sharply, and the Rat King immediately fainted. Coco had no choice but to tuck it into her pocket, realizing this must be where the tiger was hiding. But no matter how much she searched, she could not spot the tiger anywhere. She did not know how long she had been calling out, but the tiger still did not show, and she started to lose hope. If this continued, the girl feared she might actually get kicked out of the Duke's estate. Just then, Coco noticed something unusual about the mat in front of her. The wind was blowing fiercely, yet the grass there did not move at all, as if something heavy was pressing down on it. Remembering that spirit beasts had special powers, Coco cautiously stepped forward and softly asked, "Are you here?" The other side startled, muscles tensing with alertness. Being detected disrupted its invisibility, making it wary, but when it looked at the girl, it sensed no danger. Maybe this was just another trick. So, the tiger clawed symbols into the ground, asking Coco if she really saw it. Those characters were unlike any human writing, yet Coco could understand them. She introduced herself, saying she could communicate with animals. Surprised, she asked why the tiger was hiding, then invited it to come back with her. But the tiger bluntly refused, believing no one truly liked it. It turned out the tiger once lived in an extremely cold region, specializing in hunting evil spirits. Over time, not only did humans avoid it, but even other spirit beasts gradually abandoned it. At that time, only one human boy had ever reached out to help. Hearing this sad and painful story, Coco changed her mind. She originally wanted to catch the tiger to give to Khloe, but now she wanted to befriend it instead. The tiger was so moved that it revealed itself to Coco. Coco smiled warmly and reached out her hand to it. Yet at the crucial moment, the tiger hesitated, unconsciously recalling its promise to that boy, and disappeared once again. Coco could not understand what the tiger really wanted. Its eyes showed it wanted to come with her, but it would not approach. Just then, Khloe found Coco and asked if she was still stubbornly searching for the tiger. Coco immediately shook her head to deny it, but her act was clumsy and easily seen through. Khloe ordered her to behave and returned to her room to wait. Pouting, Coco said she only wanted to help her sister. Suddenly, Coco realized the reason why the tiger refused. It must be because the tiger also had a true friend it longed to meet, just like her. So Coco quickly excused herself from Khloe. Khloe looked at Coco as if she was about to cause trouble and froze. Meanwhile, Coco sighed with relief and ran back to the same spot, loudly calling out, "I know you have a friend you want to see. Come with me, I promise I will help you reunite." It turned out that during a previous glimpse into the future, Coco had seen a news report about the tiger. It had been imprisoned like a toy by the Northern Great Duke Libra, tortured endlessly, and finally abandoned in a desolate wasteland due to exhaustion. Coco did not want the tiger to face such a tragic fate. She hugged its thick, warm fur tightly, understanding its loneliness and sorrow from having no one by its side, because she had been through that herself. At that moment, the tiger was truly moved by her words. This was the first time in its life it felt warmth from a human. Afterwards, Coco gathered everyone in the Duke's mansion and proudly announced she had successfully captured the spirit beast tiger alive. After speaking, she gestured for everyone to look at the space beside her. Red and Doc Mun looked puzzled, their faces full of questions. They thought Coco was teasing them, but then a well-behaved tiger really appeared next to the girl. Everyone was shocked into stunned silence. After all, the tiger's special power was invisibility. Even Khloe could not believe it and hurriedly asked how Coco had done it. Coco then recounted the whole story and honestly revealed her secret that she could communicate with animals. Hearing this, Rut was so moved he jumped up, because that power was said to exist only in legends. But at the same time, he was very happy, because thanks to that, she could continue staying at the Duke's residence. She was overjoyed, thinking that this time Khloe would definitely acknowledge her as her younger sister. However, Khloe remained cold and distant, only saying that she still needed to observe more. More than that, she was curious about her true identity. She was right there on the spot. The little girl really was her. If it had been before, she would have immediately grabbed the girl and praised her endlessly. But thinking it over, this was actually a good thing, because after receiving a reward from the Duke, Doc Moon could take a step closer to Khloe. At that moment, Vut suddenly grew worried and reminded her that the Duke was not someone easy to deal with. Meanwhile, at the camp where Duke Aduz was fighting, he was scolding his subordinates. He was increasingly frustrated with the younger generation, who for a whole month had only been saying they could not do things. Just then, a subordinate reported that the spirit beast fox had been captured, and the one who caught it was the child blessed by the gods whom the Duke had once adopted. The Duke was stunned. Clearly, that child was supposed to have his guardianship revoked. Since it was unclear whether she really possessed any special abilities, the Duke decided to keep the girl for now and ordered a reward to be given to her. A few days later, Teresa attended a social gathering of noble young ladies. Her failure to purify Khloe had already sparked much suspicion and gossip. But thanks to her clever handling, Teresa managed to redirect all the criticism toward Khloe, who had locked herself away and not gone outside. Just then, news that she had tamed the spirit beast fox suddenly spread everywhere. It was said the Duke had heard the news and was rushing back to the residence that very night. Everyone's attention immediately shifted. Teresa lost her central position, and her face darkened. Rumors said she was close to Khloe, and Teresa worried that her father might start keeping an eye on Khloe because of that. But soon after, another piece of news brought back the smile on her face. The spirit beast fox was said to be severely weakened and was not expected to live much longer. She had struggled to get the spirit beast fox to open up, only to find its body already critically ill, with claws covered in black sores. It was a fatal disease known as the Black Lion's Mark. They said any spirit beast infected with it would quickly perish. She held the spirit beast fox, crying tears that flooded her cheeks, because she still had not helped it find the person it wanted to meet. Then, the spirit beast fox told her a folk remedy. Drinking a brew made from thorns of the blue rose might cure it. The next day, she ran all over the residence's garden looking for blue roses, but no matter where she searched, she could not find any. She started to wonder if she should sneak outside the residence. Just then, she saw Khloe and thought maybe Khloe held the clue about the blue rose. Hearing her call, Khloe turned around and coldly said, "Didn't I tell you not to enter the garden?" She quickly apologized, explaining that she wanted to help the spirit beast fox find the blue rose. Khloe softened slightly, then told her not to waste her effort, because the language of flowers for the blue rose was a myth. Blue roses simply do not exist in this world. Realizing she could not save the spirit beast fox, she immediately sank into despair. Seeing her so downcast, Khloe gently ruffled her hair and comforted her, saying it was not time to give up yet. If it was just something that looked like a blue rose, then that could be a clue. Hearing this, she instantly smiled brightly, happily waving her arms and legs. The child's innocence even made Khloe smile unconsciously. Right after, Khloe led her to a flower garden filled with hydrangea bushes. She explained that people often use the blue hydrangea as a poetic metaphor for the blue rose. She happily praised Khloe as a genius, which brought Khloe back to old memories. In truth, it was all thanks to her meeting the uncle she once loved most. She used to love playing in this garden and adored the flowers here. Every morning she ran around everywhere, which is why Khloe unconsciously wanted to learn more and keep the garden looking as it once did. For that reason, Khloe did not want her running freely in the garden, because she did not want to see the traces of her past crushed on the lawn. Realizing she had upset Khloe, she lowered her head in sorrow, then timidly asked her sister if she still wanted to see her again. Not only did Khloe want to see her again, she longed to hold her, to feel her warmth one more time. Hearing this, she felt a sharp pain, speechless with sadness, never imagining her departure had caused such suffering. Right after, Khloe picked a blue hydrangea, handed it to her, and ordered the girl to leave. Watching her sister's figure fade away, she grew more determined than ever to work harder so her sister would recognize her and never feel lonely again. Elsewhere, Teresa tried to interfere in treating Lin Thursday Ho, sending her loyal follower Jia to investigate the beast's condition. Because Jia had special abilities to read animal emotions, she arrogantly ordered the sect leader to take her to Lin Thursday Ho's room. But as soon as they arrived, they saw the girl step out, followed by a strong stench. Lin Thursday Ho was sprawled lifeless on the ground, completely drained of vitality. Jia immediately ordered the girl's arrest. This turn of events perfectly played into Teresa's plan to spread rumors that Khloe had sabotaged Lin Thursday Ho to bring her down. Jia pinned the entire blame for killing Lin Thursday Ho on the girl, then heartlessly locked her away in a dark cell. Upon hearing the news, Vut and Khloe were horrified. The next day, after his anger cooled, Vut stormed straight to the prison. Guards tried to calm him, but by then Vut's anger had peaked and dark magic surged in his palm. Even if it meant breaking family laws, he was determined to get inside. Sweeping aside all obstacles, Vut quickly found the girl's prison cell. Seeing her sitting with her back to him, Vut was furious. He could not believe they would be so cruel to a 5-year-old child. Soon he heard a soft humming. It was Jia talking quietly to the bugs on the floor. Vut thought the girl was trying to stay strong, not wanting him to worry. Moved, Vut shed tears and promised to rescue her immediately. But the girl calmly said there was no need. Lin Thursday Ho would come back to life soon enough. Khloe once said that only when pushed to the brink and still able to turn things around does one become stronger, so the girl wanted to stay imprisoned a while longer to play innocent. Vut was completely lost, unable to understand what was going on. Just then, a cold voice rang out, reminding Vut not to cause trouble. Seeing Khloe appear there, the girl was startled because she knew her well. Though Khloe was a shadow-controlling mage, she was actually terrified of dark, enclosed spaces. When she was little, her family once locked her in a cellar for a week to force her to get used to dark magic. Since then, whenever she stepped into any darkness not created by herself, Khloe's body would immediately shiver. Seeing the girl, still worried about her even in prison, Khloe suddenly remembered how the girl had once comforted her. Fighting her fear, Khloe asked the girl directly if she really had not killed Lin Thursday Ho. Hearing the girl confidently say that Lin Thursday Ho would revive in 2 days, Khloe quietly took note, then anxiously asked if she was cold and offered to bring her a blanket if needed. The girl smiled brightly, saying it was enough just to have Khloe break through the darkness and care for her like this. Then Khloe told Vut to step aside and unleashed a dark magic blast that shattered the prison door. Afterwards, servants hurriedly carried in sofas, laid out carpets, and transformed the prison into a proper room. Once done, Khloe calmly left. She already suspected this was Teresa's trap to frame her and the girl, since without that push, the rumors would not have spread so quickly. At the same time, the Duke's carriage returned to the mansion. For the first time in years, Khloe personally went to greet him at the door. She wanted to be a protective force for the child and asked to speak privately with her father. Upon entering his office, Khloe straightforwardly said this matter concerned the girl. The Duke was uneasy and impatient, believing that the prisoner's case should be handled by the interrogators. But Khloe looked him squarely in the eyes, convinced the child was innocent of killing Lin Thursday Ho, and urged him to postpone the trial for 2 days. The Duke was surprised. Her child always seemed weak before him, yet now showed such courage and honesty. In the end, he agreed but declared he would personally preside over the trial 2 days later. So, she comfortably lived in the cell for 2 days until the official trial began. When the Duke called the suspect to step forward, she appeared wearing a soft, fluffy fur coat, looking nothing like a struggling prisoner. Seeing this, the Duke was troubled after all. This was a murder case, yet the suspect before him was just a 5-year-old child. The girl grew impatient and loudly declared that the spirit beast soldier was not dead. Immediately, Jia rebutted, insisting that his supernatural ability had truly sensed the spirit beast soldier's death. Because just moments later, the child stepped out of the room and the spirit beast's presence suddenly vanished. Furthermore, he presented evidence claiming Khloe had aided in killing the spirit beast soldier. Teresa quickly seized the opportunity to escalate the situation, making things even more unfavorable. The girl was furious and explained that the spirit beast soldier was only in a deep sleep to heal injuries. This was what the spirit beast soldier had told her herself. To test whether she truly had the ability to communicate with animals, the Duke immediately channeled his magic into a glowing light blade in his hand and swung it toward her. This was a supernatural test by the Duke. If her ability was fake, the light would envelop her body. If real, it would dissipate. After the test, no typical reaction of someone without powers appeared on her body at all. Jiao laughed mockingly at this, but the Duke was stunned into silence. Because a strange rainbow light appeared around her, visible only to the Duke. It was a sight he had never seen before. The girl loudly insisted that the test results must be wrong. Teresa immediately scolded the girl for being rude, but was quickly stopped by the Duke. He leaned down and asked the girl when the spirit beast soldier would awaken. Khloe glanced at the clock. It had been exactly 2 days. Sure enough, right after that, a spirit beast rushed straight into the trial room and immediately came to her side. Anyone could see that they had reached a level of deep mental connection. With terror in Teresa's eyes, Khloe slowly stepped beside the girl and declared it was time to change the trial subject. Feeling cornered, Teresa immediately tried to shift the blame, not only accusing Jia of careless investigation but also slandering him with rumors, unlawfully detaining the girl, and even falsely pretending to support her. Seeing Teresa completely abandon her, Jia had no choice but to kneel and beg the Duke for forgiveness. But the Duke did not even glance at him, quietly stepping over to the girl to apologize for having misunderstood her. At the same time, he promised a reward for saving the spirit beast soldier. Anything within his power would be granted. The girl happily jumped up, then turned to look at Khloe beside her, expressing her wishes to the Duke. Khloe, the girl, and the Duke would always be together every day. She wanted to help Khloe fully overcome the pain from her own death. Of course, if Khloe wanted to leave as well, the girl would not object at all.